Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news. And although the transfer window is closed, we do actually have a rather significant update from Fabrizio Romano in the last hour in relation to Bruno Fernandes and Saudi. What happened this summer, how advanced it was, and what's probably going to happen next summer. We'll talk about that. I do also want to talk about the Amorim era being here. Is it a free hit on Sunday against Man City? Or as Maud said this afternoon, do we have to start seeing something a little bit more? Also, a bit of an interesting transfer story about us going for Fofana, Malick Fofana from Lyon, right on transfer deadline day. We'll talk about that. And also, you know, I just want to say a difficult day for me today. And I don't want to claim it selfishly. You know, I think the whole family is really upset. The dog got put down today, so we're a little bit late. Yeah, very, very sad. So rest in peace to our pet dog Tallulah, who was put down today. Yeah, just a little bit late on the show today with that, just sorting a few things out. But I know a lot of you would, you know, left some nice messages the other day when I said that she seemed to be on the way out. And today, unfortunately, well, you know what? I say unfortunately. I think in the animal world, you know, it's compassionate, isn't it? To be able to just, you know, when it gets too much, have the injection and go out peacefully, which she did. So yeah, a little bit late because of that today. Before we get into, and thanks for everyone for all the messages there. I mean, the hardest thing is, like, I think for Seb, who's so young, it's the first time he's sort of had to deal with anything like that, and that's the hardest thing to see, isn't it? Because I think as we get older, we unfortunately we see more and more of it. Before we get into anything though, we have got a brilliant offer with you for boohooMAN tonight. I am going to get into the Bruno story, don't worry, but I have to mention this because it's brilliant. Today's show sponsored by boohooMAN. You can get the 10% discount across the website as normal with the code Goldbridge. This will work on top of any other code. So if there's 30%, 40% off, you can use the 10% on top of that with the code Goldbridge. Get yourself some fantastic clothing items. But, and they've got everything there, t-shirts, coats, gym wear, Netflix and chill wear, the lot. But listen to this. boohooMAN is running an exclusive competition for our viewers, only you, the United Stand, 800 quid voucher to one of you. One lucky winner will get £800 to spend at boohooMAN.com. All you got to do is register before September the 30th. The link is in the description, or scan this QR code next to me. We're going to be announcing the winner in early October and the big reveal, so don't miss it. But it'll be one of you who wins that £800 voucher at boohooMAN.com. Link in the description, or scan the QR code. Get entering now. What a prize to win. And as you know as well with boohooMAN, they've always got a little bit of trivia for you. So can you guess the player? I was born on the 25th of February 1981. I started my professional career in 2000 and moved to PSV in 2003 before joining Man United. I made 205 appearances overall, scoring 27 goals, and was part of the squad that won 11 major trophies, including 4 Premier Leagues and the Champions League. I could play anywhere across the midfield. My remarkable stamina earned me a nickname related to my name and endurance. I left United in 2012 and signed for QPR, but after the club's relegation, I was loaned back to PSV. And despite my extraordinary fitness, I was plagued with knee injuries throughout my career, which eventually led to my retirement from professional football in 2014. Who am I? I've just realised it's an evening show, so we should be red. Who am I? I played against him, actually. He stopped me scoring at the Stretford end. I was playing a charity game at Old Trafford. I'm on the edge of the box. Gets cut back to me. I have a look around. There's no one there. I'm focusing on hitting the ball correctly and going for the top corner. And out of nowhere, Ji-Sung Park turns up and runs away with the ball. I thought, bloody hell, he has got great stamina. Of course, it was Ji-Sung Park. If you got that one, thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much to boohooMAN. Don't forget to enter the competition there. Right, let's start off with this breaking news, I suppose, from Fabrizio Romano. I mean, some might say, why is Fabrizio still doing transfer shows? Well, he is on his YouTube channel, and this is what he had to say. The Saudis will return for Bruno Fernandes. It was what he actually said is, it was quite advanced in May/June, and it was actually them that broke the information that Bruno had decided to stay. But he verified again that it was quite advanced with Bruno. The Saudis want to return, but it is obviously over for 2025. In 2026, it will again be up to Bruno Fernandes whether he wants to stay or go. but the Saudis will return for him in 2026. So look, you know what? A little bit of clarity gives you a little bit more knowledge. And we have a theory that Bruno could go to Saudi next season. And we have a theory that he could go before the June the 30th deadline so that the money goes into this financial year and helps us out massively. But I think what we have there is just verification of that theory not even being a theory. The Saudis will come back for the third summer transfer window in a row next summer in 2026. And also, it was advanced with Bruno to Saudi this summer. So, look, as I've said many times before, he was definitely close to doing it. He was definitely thinking about it. And the Saudis basically didn't get him 2 summers ago, nearly got him this summer. Nowhere near, nearly get him. Too hot. The porridge is too cold, too hot, just right. This bed is too hard, too soft, just right. I think next summer, there's a very high chance that it will happen. But look, I think some people wrongly think that Bruno just refused that deal. He spent time on it, as Romano said. I mean, as we all know, it went on for 2.5 weeks. But it was quite advanced, according to Romano, and they will be back in 2026. So there we go. I knew the question would be there from one of you. Well done. Would you sell him in next summer? Yes. Yes. And you know what? I shouldn't be answering it now, but the answer is yes. I think it's a free hit to sell him next summer because he will be still playing in the midfield, which will still be with its issues. And I think for the money you would get, you can get 2 players that are going to be part of our future for a lot longer. Bruno Fernandes, very important player. Would not be surprised if he won Player of the Year this year. But I'd have sold him in June, so I'll definitely sell him next June. Unless he starts playing as a number 10 again, I will definitely do it. King Walker says, can you please talk about Malick Fofana? Well, yes, I will talk about this. I mean, it's weird to be getting a couple of transfer stories at the start of the show. But this came in from Santi JFM, who I find as a journalist from France, Foot Mercato, I find him very hit and miss. I think sometimes he's absolutely spot on and sometimes he's not. But basically what he said is, in the last couple of days of the transfer window, Manchester United tried to sign Malick Fofana. George Mendes was the intermediary that played the matchmaker between United and Fofana's father. But Fofana was tempted by the move, but the green light never came. I look at this and go, well, you know, he's not a centre midfielder, and I would therefore say that it's a tough one to believe, and it's a tough one to sort of understand where he would fit in. We don't play with wingers. I suppose he could play as a wing back, but he's still he's very young and he's very inexperienced. It doesn't seem to fit the profile of player that Man United would need to go and get. But look, you know, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. The ultimate bottom line is that we didn't do the deal anyway. So, you know, I probably would just leave it there. But honestly, my general feeling is, you know, if we'd have bought him on transfer deadline day, I'd have been massively confused. That would be my assessment of it. If we'd got Malick Fofana on transfer deadline day, and it would have been a few million as well, I'd have been very confused by it. I'd have gone, that's not really the player that we need at the moment. But Thomas says he's better than 2/3 of Man United right now. But what 2/3 is he better than? In position, what is he better than? Because he's saying he's better than Ahmad? He's saying he's better than Mbeumo? He's saying he's better than Cunha? I don't really think so. So, yeah, look, I think that it's a story and it's interesting, but I choose not to really give a shit, if I'm being honest, because I think that sorry, I've just got to send a message here. it wouldn't have solved any problems for us, really. My volume is not low. It's absolutely fine. Can we start blocking these people, please? Because it just ruins the show for everybody else. What were your thoughts on the England performance versus Serbia, says Rajaf? It's the United stand, mate. I don't really want to talk about it here on the United stand right in the first 15 minutes of the show, with all due respect. I may well come back to it at the end. Curious Watchman says, hi, Mark. Something we've all forgotten about. Next summer is the start of INEOS taking the paused dividends again. That's Bruno's fees gone, says Curious Watchman. And Dane Holden says, evening, Mark. What are your thoughts on Le Mans starting over Binder in the derby? I would do it, Dane. But obviously we'll talk about it more in the preview, but I would do it. If you get another dog, Mark, you should call it Anana, says Joe Wright. That wouldn't be fair. And Baz says, rate this out of 10 next summer if it happens. Dalot, Shaw, Maguire, Casemiro, Ugarte leave, and we bring in 6 new players in key positions, and we keep Ruben. Look, to be honest with you, I will answer the question because it is a super chat, but I would answer it anyway. If we remove Dalot, Shaw, Maguire, Casemiro, and Ugarte and bring in 6 new players in key positions, I would say yeah. And I've got nothing against Dalot, Shaw, Maguire, Casemiro, or Ugarte, but you've just offered me 6 new players in key positions, so of course I would. We're all sorry for your loss, Goldie, says Nectario. Thank you very much for your lovely message. Rest in peace, Tallulah Bridge, says Daniel Longbottom. Thank you very much. Mark, better give us some good news because I'm very depressed about the team situation, says Andreas. And yet, the title of the show was meant to be Amorim Era Starts Here because I feel like the international break is over now. Also, look, I have had some sad news today as well, so I haven't probably prepped for this show as much as I normally would do. And it is an 8 o'clock show, and it is meant to be driven by you. So I would just say tonight, as we mark the end of the international break, because tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, it's a live preview of the Manchester derby. And then we've got press conference and everything. Please do get your questions in because I feel like tonight I don't want to do a lot of self-generated topics, and I actually prefer it better with you lot anyway. So thank you very much for that. I just going back to that there about being depressed about the situation with Manchester United at the moment. I would ask you why. Why are you depressed about Man United's situation at the moment? 4 points from 9 is exactly what I predicted. I thought we'd lose to Arsenal, draw to Fulham and beat Burnley. And the circumstances of those results I didn't predict, but I did predict those 4 from 7. I did also say that we might have 4 from 15 because we've got 3 very tough teams in the first few games. So I think that could be an issue for us. But I think the season starts here. And therefore, I think the Amorim era starts here. I think from this weekend is where it starts. We never, ever, ever are ready for the start of the season. Like, I don't remember the last time we were ready for the start of the season. There's something about Manchester United that predates INEOS and has continued with INEOS that we treat the first 3 games of the season as pre-season. And I'd love somebody somewhere one day to explain it to me other than it's financial. Because we always do it. Šeško didn't start any of the first 3 games and we needed a striker. The goalkeeper wasn't bought till after game 3 and we needed a goalkeeper. And Mbeumo wasn't really match fit for the start of the season. We were not ready for the start of the season, comparable to Arsenal, who were. So I feel that our season starts on Sunday. I would say in many ways that the Man City game is a bit of a free hit because although we've won at the Etihad, we should never take it for granted. It's obviously a difficult place to go. They've got to bounce back from 2 losses from their opening 3 games. So I think this period of 4 games before the international break are really, really key for Manchester United. And we need to go and, put some markers down. Brentford and Sunderland before the next international break. Man City and Chelsea are next 2. So I'm looking forward to see what we can do. Obviously, I'm slightly concerned about what the injuries might be to Cunha and Mount because I think they've had a very good start to the season. Somebody's already asked about Le Mans. I think that's very interesting what we do with the goalkeeper situation. But I really expect there to be a step up. I think we've seen signs from United in the first 3 games that we can do good things. Obviously, I'm not forgetting Grimsby, but there was a lot of changes in that. But I think that ultimately there has been some signs of positivity. And what I would expect from this 2 weeks is that a lot of the players that maybe didn't have match fitness will be further along. A few players that might have been unsettled will now be settled because the window is closed. And we really should be starting to see United move forward now. I thought what Maud said on the 2 o'clock show is so true. We don't have to go and beat Man City at the weekend, but what we do have to start showing is some fluidity, a performance. And if we start doing that, I think we'll start winning games. Certainly. ECM says, what about the chart show? 2 a.m. 2 a.m. UK time. So some of our viewers from around the world are going to benefit from this. But if you're UK based, it's a 2 a.m. drop, so maybe watch it in the morning. But the chart show is back. I was trying to get it out for 5 o'clock today, but with what was going on with the dog, couldn't do it. So the chart show is back 2 a.m. tomorrow, and then it's back every week. Again, I'm excited about it. Siddharth says, if we sell Bruno next summer and Casemiro, we don't have a good midfield. We will again start a few months of next season as pre-season. January is key, says Siddharth. I mean, I don't want to talk about next summer too much, but even if we do buy midfielders, we already mentioned this morning that it's a World Cup year, so that'll be a very condensed, difficult summer transfer window to do business in. And what if we get the midfielder in late August? First 3 games of the season, we drop points. I mean, look, Ugarte and Amrabat are a prime example of why you don't buy midfielders at the end of August, because their first season basically becomes a write-off of, you know, well, they didn't have a pre-season and United. I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe you can tell me. Why is it that Manchester United treat the first 3 games of the season like pre-season? I don't know. Why do we do certain deals really late in the window? It can only be money, in my opinion. But, you know. Ewan Gordon says, not selling Bruno is setting us back more years. We would have gotten top dollar for him and the rebuild would have began. INEOS Mission 28 plan is silly, says Ewan Gordon. Look, I did not expect to be talking about Bruno Fernandes, but Romano did a video about an hour ago, and that's why we spoke about him at the start of the show. I don't think we're ever going to stop talking about Bruno and whether we should have sold him or not. But I think games like Sunday become massively important. Remember, when Man United said we don't want Bruno to go, they basically said we don't want Bruno to go, and it was down to Bruno. So Man United made that choice. Bruno obviously spent a bit of time going, do I want to go, do I not want to go? But Man United could have just gone, we don't want you. We want the money. And he would have been gone. So United's stance of keeping him will go against some, and some of you will agree with it. But that's why it will always be a topic of conversation, because United decided against it. And some people thought it was wrong to do that. But it will be revisited every time scrutiny is put on the midfield. And when we win games with Bruno in the midfield, people will go, well, they got it right. And when we lose games with Bruno in the midfield, people will say we got it wrong. And when we drop points in games because of Bruno in the midfield, people will say we got it wrong, like Fulham. If he goes with Smith Rowe, we probably win that game. But he doesn't go with Smith Rowe because he's not a midfielder. So I think we're just going to keep revisiting it, Ewan, throughout the season. And also, it will be revisited for the main thing we started the show with. The Saudis are coming back in 2026. So I think the big status sentence here is, even if you think Bruno is a midfielder, I don't, but even if you think he is, this is not a long-term solution. Even if Bruno Fernandes plays really well in the midfield, he's probably gone next summer. So even if you think he is a midfielder, it's not a long-term solution, isn't it? And I look at it and I go, I don't think he's a midfielder. And also, he's going to go in 12 months. What was the plan? And again, it's a bit like, why did Man United treat the first 3 games of the season like pre-season? I'd also say, why didn't we take £90 million for a player that you know you're going to sell in 12 months? I can think of one reason. They thought they couldn't do without him, and they needed to get a plan in place. I think that's a shame. I think it's a shame to say you can't go because if you go, this club's going to fall apart. It happened at the start of June. But you know what? I don't disagree with it. If United knew at the start of June, if Bruno went, they didn't have any time to replace him, that just shows you how crap our preparation was to buy a midfielder and why we never got one in the first place. So, you know what? People can moan about Man United not selling Bruno. We didn't buy a midfielder. So even if we'd sold Bruno, we probably wouldn't have bought a midfielder, you know? So I don't know. I hope Ruben stays, says Hector. There are players whose contracts are expiring, so we'll replace them with players who would have suited the system better next year. Andre Gomez says, that was from Hector, wasn't it? Yeah. Sorry to hear about your dog, says Ewan. Thank you very much, Ewan. Appreciate your super chat. Andre Gomez says, selling Bruno means getting not one but two midfielders. I personally have given up on Ugarte and Casemiro is on the way out, says Andre. Casemiro will be gone next summer. I know this because I suppose INEOS have wanted to get rid of him since last summer. They just don't like his wage. They feel that the wage is incredibly stupid comparable to the player they have. And they're not wrong about that. I like Casemiro. You know, most of my like for Casemiro is his professionalism and the career and player he was. But, you know, he's not a troublemaker. He's a professional. But his wage is ridiculous. You know, I actually do agree with INEOS. Like, they look at Casemiro and go, if he was on 150 grand a week, they probably wouldn't care. They might even consider extending him. But he's on 300 grand a week or 350 grand a week, and they just look at it and go, this is ridiculous money. And they've been trying to get rid of him for 3 summer transfer windows. Ain't no way they're keeping him next year. He's gone. As for Ugarte, it's a big year for Ugarte. Like, I like Ugarte. I haven't given up on Ugarte. But I think there were good games and bad games last season. He's had a really bad start to the season. I don't know why. It's worrying. It's almost falling into the category of not being settled, which sort of happened at PSG. So I'm a little bit worried about that one. But if he doesn't establish himself in the first team this year, he'll be gone next summer. He'll be another Rasmus, another Onana. He'll be another player that goes after 2 years. And what I would say about Ugarte is, and it's unfair because I still think there's a good player there and I really like him, and I think the profile of the player is really important if it turns around. But I think a lot of people are starting to give up on him, which is a shame. But I would say Ten Hag didn't want Ugarte. He wanted to keep McTominay. Well, he wanted to keep McTominay, and I don't know whether he wanted Ugarte or not. Ten Hag's not relevant. The point is, it was a board signing. And that board was, at that stage, INEOS. So I'm intrigued to know who it was who went for Ugarte, because it definitely wasn't Ten Hag. I think Ten Hag was on board with it, but it wasn't one of his. So was it Wilcox? Was it Barada? Was it Sir Jim? I don't know. But somebody in the football club from the INEOS regime really championed that. And I'm hoping that it will work out, because they obviously saw something in him that was worthwhile. Unless it was Ashworth, says Nick. Could have been. Ugarte needs a real centre midfielder next to him, says Keel. Absolutely. And I think that's the same for Casemiro, and it's the same for Manu. And that's not an excuse for any of them to play badly, but it goes back to what we were talking about. I think if you put Alexis McAllister against Bruno Fernandes, it's going to be a tough gig. You put Tonali with Bruno Fernandes, it's going to be a tough gig. You put Declan Rice next to Bruno Fernandes, it's going to be a tough gig. You put Rodri next to Bruno Fernandes, it's going to be a tough gig, because you're going to do a lot of work on your own. And I don't think people realise that. You know, Rodri is one of the best midfielders in the world. Declan Rice is very, very good. Alexis McAllister and Tonali. But you put them next to Bruno and it becomes a really difficult job. And that's not critical of Bruno. That's critical of a player playing out of position who should be playing in a different position. The discipline of Bruno is not there to play as midfield 2. He's here, there and everywhere. He's not disciplined. He doesn't track runners. It's not his fault. He's a number 10. So in defence of Ugarte and Casemiro and Manu, it is a tough job when you've got Bruno next to you. And who's that on? You know, it's not on Bruno. I agree with Rocky, though. Bruno is superb, but he should play as a 10. I absolutely do agree with that. Man United, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much for joining. I don't think it's the real one, but there we go. Daniel says, sorry to hear about your dog, Mark. Rest in peace. Thank you very much, mate. Thank you for your lovely messages, everybody. Keep your questions coming in, because I am a little bit brain fuzzy tonight. Had a lot going on. So some good questions coming in, though. Drive it. Bruno, no Bruno, our midfield crap performances show it, says Chris Johnson Adventures. Well, yeah, I mean, this is a great point. We saw it against Grimsby when we've seen it a few times. Did it happen at the City ground last year as well? There was definitely a game last year where Bruno didn't play and a lot of people went, This will be good. And we were worse. It is an absolute fact that we are worse without Bruno in the team. Every time he doesn't play, we actually play worse. Now, I don't think that's because of the midfield. I think that, I think if he played at 10 and he didn't play, we'd play worse. I don't think we're a worse team because he's a midfielder. I think we're a worse team when he's not on the pitch because he's such a big influence on the team. So, Ewan Gordon, thank you very much. Ryle says, I can't wait for the weekend. Man City didn't win anything last season, so this is an easy 3 points. Do you agree? United are favourites, agree. Well, I don't agree with that at all. I think that I think Manchester City have an abundance of very, very good players. I think they have a very good manager. I think they have home advantage. I think that if... I am a bit tired tonight as well because we were up at about 4:30 this morning with the dog, so I'm a bit tired. I know I've been yawning. I used to yawn a lot more. I don't really yawn much on stream now, so I apologise for that. Have got some free memberships to give away, Norris. Well reminded. But, yeah, look, this is not the Man City preview. We'll do that live tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Join me in for that. I like doing a live preview, actually. We don't always get a chance in the transfer window, but I like to do a live one because there's a lot more interaction in it. But no, we're not favourites, Ryle. We're not favourites. I think the fact that Man City have lost 2 of their first 3 puts a lot of pressure on them on Sunday to react. And they probably will react. They're at home. They're better than us. It's going to be a tough game. I think we can get a result, though. I do think we can get a result. I think there's vulnerabilities to Manchester City. I think it's a positive now that Mamouche is injured as well. I don't know whether anybody saw that, but Mamouche has got injured on international duty. So I think that levels things up a little bit because we might be missing Cunha and Mount. So I think Stones got injured for them over the break as well. So injuries-wise, there's not really a major excuse for either team. So look, I think it's going to be an interesting game. I certainly don't want to see Manchester derbies of the past where we're at the Etihad defending, 10 men behind the ball on the edge of our box. I don't think you need to do that against Man City anymore. I think that would be a mistake. You did in the past. You definitely did in the past. It was a long afternoon. Park the bus, counter-attack. You don't need to do that against City anymore. You can get at them, and I think that's what we need to do. But no, I wouldn't say we're favourites, Ryle, because if Cunha and Mount are out, that's 2 of our best players this season. Nath Footy says, sorry to hear about your dog, mate. Thank you very much for the lovely messages. Siddharth says, if we sell Bruno and Casemiro, we don't have a good midfield. We will again start a few months of next season as pre-season. I've done that one from Amorim very much. Keel says, 2 centre midfielders in January, 2 wing-backs in the summer. Have it. Hero Creator says, very sorry to hear the news. I heard on the radio that Zidane would be able to bring this club back to glory. I think it's bullshit. Do you agree? I mean, I don't... The fact that you said you heard it on the radio, I can imagine what radio station it was. I mean, look, I'm happy to talk about alternatives because, it's a community. But, I mean, I was talking about Zidane when we got rid of Oli. How many years ago was that? And he hasn't managed since. Zinedine Zidane did the job at Real Madrid because it was his club and he had a good relationship with some of the players and he felt a duty to do it. And he did it for a bit and then he got fed up with it and he left. He has no call of duty to Manchester United. He has no connection with Manchester United. I don't think Zinedine Zidane wants to do a job that isn't something that motivates him or he has a connection with. I think he wants the France job at some point. But he's been out of football for a very long time as well. So I could see Zidane being an absolute disaster at Man United, to be honest. I don't know why people would say that would be a good... I mean, that's an absolute punt in the dark, really. And maybe you score your points, but I think it's a punt in the dark now on that one. Samo says, Klopp got Liverpool top 4 with 20 centre-back pairings and playing cams at centre-back. Amorim not having 1 extra centre midfielder for depth isn't an excuse to fail. Good managers do it. You know what? I just love people who compare other football clubs to Manchester United. I mean, last time I checked, we are the most talked about football club in England. We are the most scrutinised football club in England. We are the worst run club in England. We have a very, very toxic environment around the club. And it amazes me that people still compare us to other clubs. What Jurgen Klopp did at Liverpool got to do with Manchester United? Because I'll tell you now, we could get Jurgen Klopp on the phone and he would say, I couldn't do what I did at Liverpool at that football club because the barriers are too big. So, Sam, I completely disagree with you because I don't see it's fantasy to compare any other club to Manchester United because it's not the same. It's not the same at all. And also, Jurgen Klopp had a very different journey at Liverpool to the one that Ruben Amorim's going on. He was backed, he was supported, and he was given time. And Ruben Amorim's only just had his first pre-season and his first transfer window. Very, very early. And you're talking about no excuses. Well, how can you say there's no excuses? You don't even know what's going to happen over the next 8 months. I struggle to see... Ashley Young said it on the radio a few weeks ago. I struggle to see the brain power being used when people say, no excuses, he's got to finish in the top 4. And I'll literally throw up 6 or 7 excuses that will stop that happening. So why say no excuses? What if, like, next month, 3 of our 4 midfielders get long-term injuries? No excuses, he's got to get top 4. 3 of the midfielders are gone. So I never really understand the point of no excuses this season. He's got to get top 4. Well, there could be a bloody 60 excuses that pop up in the next few weeks that stop that. So you can predict top 4 and you can demand top 4, but I don't think you can say no excuses. Do you think Ruben can win the upcoming run of games, as simply read? Look, I would love at the next international break for the United Strand to get a haircut because we've won the next 4 games. But we're not going to win the next 4 games. We're not going to beat Man City away, Chelsea at home, Brentford away, and Sunderland at home. We will definitely drop points along the way. I haven't got a problem with that. Got a problem with that? I haven't got a problem with that. I think we're going to have a roller coaster of a season. It'll be up and down. What people need to do really... I hate that, actually. Can I take that back? What I would do is I would go Newcastle finished 5th with 12 losses. If we lose to Man City and Chelsea and Liverpool, we'll have lost 4 games out of our first 8, but we'll have played the top 4. By the time we get to 19 games, we'll have played everybody. But in the first 8, we'll have played the top 4. So even if we do lose to all of them and we've lost 4 of our first 8, the context will be is we've lost to the 4 best teams in the league. So for the next 11 games, I would say we can't afford to lose more than 2. Then you get halfway through the season and you've lost 6 from 19. You're on track to do what Newcastle did last year, and that's lose 12 and finish 5th. So this context is really key. On paper, we've had quite a tough start to the season. And that's why I wouldn't be making any rash decisions if I was Sir Jim Radcliffe or Joel Glazer based on what happens in the first 8 games. I'd be looking at where we are after 19. I'd be looking at last season and what points required you to get top 5. Because I think that there is this... there's this section of our fan base that don't actually do homework, in the sense that if we lose 4 games in the first 8 to those teams, they'll be going, he's fucked it up already, get him out. And their brains won't have realised that actually, when you look at 5th place, which is our dream this year, I think that's our pinnacle. Last year, Newcastle lost 12 games. My point being, to finish 5th, we'll still lose a lot of games. So you can't start going, I'll get rid of him because he's lost 4 games to the top 4. We will lose games this season. And yet every game we lose, people will be screaming Amorim out. And that's exactly what I was saying last night about these Arsenal fans who go, it's not good enough, we should be winning Champions Leagues. You've never fucking won one in your history and you're setting that as the bar. Hilarious. But it's similar to some people in our fan base that after every game they scream manager out. But then you go, you do realise we won league titles losing 6 games. You do realise to finish 4th, you're expected to lose about 10. You do realise it's normal to lose games. Like, nobody doesn't lose games. But every time we lose a game, it's like, manager out, manager out. Expectations for Ugarte. Can he turn it round, says Mendoza. I mean, I've sort of touched on it a little bit. Great questions tonight, by the way. Even the ones that, you know, are sending us down into controversy, which is what it's all about. I feel with Ugarte, actually, let's just do a poll on this one. I sort of sense, will Ugarte be here next season? Because it's less blunt than will he flop or be a success. I think if he has a bad season, he'll go in the summer, maybe on loan. If he has a good season, he'll be here next season. I personally think Ugarte is a lot better than what we've seen. I think when he's at it, his big assets are winning the ball back and intensity. And if he was doing that, he'd look brilliant. So I still think he can do that. Obviously, he needs to work on his passing a little bit. But he reminds me a little bit of Rasmus at the end of last season. There just seems to be some sort of mental block there, like a lack of confidence. I don't know why. I've always noticed him. He always looks worried at United. He's got a worried face, and I don't know. It seems to be a lack of confidence. So it's in the balance this season with Ugarte, but he's got every opportunity to be here next year if he has a decent season. Because Casemiro won't be, Bruno probably won't be, and you know, you're always going to need 4 midfielders. So I think he's got a great chance of being here next year, but he's got to have a good season. Can you call my lovely Annie a prat, says Michael. There we go. Unsocial says, in Amorim we trust. And EG says, thoughts on having a captain with 1 foot out the door? Well, you know what? I've never heard that before. And I do just want to say, thank you very much for your super chat, EG. And what a very interesting point, because we always say a manager cannot be the manager in their final year of their contract. It doesn't work. We saw it with Pep last year and they got him to sign a new contract. Sir Alex Ferguson did it once and you have to sign a new contract. And yet we've got a captain here who basically is, you know, has considered leaving, according to Romano, and may well leave next summer. And that's our captain. So you raise a good point. Like, the professionalism of Bruno can never be questioned. Will it impact us this season because there's always going to be this theory that he might leave? And he was thinking of leaving. I think it's different when it's a manager. Because players are always looking for a reason to doubt their manager. It's natural. Especially when you're not in the team or you get a bad result. But I think as a player it might be different. I think I've seen numerous players over the years have a good final year when everyone knows they're going to leave. So I think it's different than a manager, if I'm being fair. Chris Jackson says, last 5 seasons, 5th place, lost 12, 12, 9, 13, 10. Thank you, Chris. You're an absolute legend. So basically what we're saying is the average losses for finishing, the average amount of games you lose to finish 5th is 12. So in the last 5 seasons, the last 2 seasons, 5th place has lost 12. The year before that, they lost 9. The year before that, 13. And the year before that, 10. So you're definitely going to lose 12 games and finish 5th. People don't realise that. People will be screaming Amorim out if he loses 12 games. I tell you. Anurag makes a good point, though. We're definitely going to lose 10 this season easy. I would say, yeah. I think the thing that worries me about, if you're asking me how many games we're going to lose, somewhere between 10 and 18, definitely. We'll definitely be in that area. We're not going to lose under 10, and we won't lose over 18, but we'll be in that area. And the reason we'll be in that area is because the biggest issue we've always had, we can beat anybody on our day. What's the flip side of that coin? We've said it many times before. If you can beat anybody on your day, it means you can lose to anybody on your day as well, and that's the problem. So we could lose at Bournemouth, we could lose at home to Palace. You know, there's a lot of games we could lose. Yeah. Robert McCormack says, 5th is job done only. There isn't 5 better squads. I disagree with you, Robert. The last 2 seasons we finished 8th and 15th. How can you put us 5th? Where's the progress? We didn't buy a midfielder. We've got an inexperienced goalkeeper, an inexperienced striker, that in the sense that we don't know whether they're going to be good or bad. I don't think you can say that 5th is nailed on based on the last 2 seasons. I think we've got a good squad, and I hope we can do it, but I don't think it's nailed on because it doesn't ever come down to squads anyway, does it? It comes down to your best 11, and I think the teams... I would be more analytical on it and say the teams that finished in the top 5 last year had the best midfield. Newcastle had the best midfield outside the top 4 and they finished 5th. I think the teams with the best midfields over a season come out on top. Alex Z says, Bruno at CDM shows how poor the team's vision and solidarity is. It's like they're afraid to shift and rotate positions. Not my job attitude. Lamslayer says, Ugarte needs Martinez back. They worked well. We need Martinez back. I remember speaking to Rasmus when I did the interview at Carrington, and Martinez was injured at that time, and I think he was just coming back. Or anyway, I just remember him saying, Martinez, I can't wait for him to come back. He's so important to the team. And that was when we were playing a back 4. And what he was basically saying is his ability to step out from the back into the midfield and play the ball is just so important as an extra man in the midfield. And I think that always stuck with me as to the importance of Martinez. Even in a back 4, his tendency to step into the midfield was so important to the team, giving an overload in the midfield. It's absolutely essential now. It's absolutely essential that we have a centre-back who can step into the midfield and play football. And Martinez is sort of heaven-made for this this system, because you put him left side of that 3, he's just going to step into the midfield. And maybe Bruno becomes relevant then, because Martinez is right behind him. I think that is the vision, by the way. We all know if Bruno's going to play in the midfield, you've got to get one of your centre-backs into the midfield. And the most natural player to do it is literally Lisandro Martinez, left-sided, which is where Bruno always plays, stepping forward and saying to Bruno, off you go, I'll be here. But we all know that. Will he come back and be able to do that? And look, he's had 2 bad injuries every time he's come back. Samuel says, we've gone that low to consider 4th as the best position. Let's aim high, give these players a boost to know that anything below 1st is unacceptable. Look, Samuel, I think what you're talking about there is something that's got nothing to do with reality. What you're saying is we should be aiming for 1st. If we sat here saying we're aiming for 1st, we'd be laughed. We'd be laughed at, because it's a fantasy. It's not going to happen. I agree with you. That's where Man United should be. But that's not on Amorim, that's not on the players, that's on the owners over the last 12 years who've let us go from winning the league to where we are now. The standards have never been so low, but that's set by the club. We can't pretend that we've got to go for 1st because we're Manchester United. We have to live in a real world. As I said to you a few weeks ago, this is the first season I've never put us in the top 4. I just don't think we're good enough. We should be fighting for titles as who we are, but I'm never going to say we've got to go for 1st with this. It's just ridiculous. But you're right, we should be, but that's more of an ownership question, I think. Can our front 3 outscore teams to make up for the midfield, says Mendoza. I mean, look, that's what happened against Burnley. We outscored Burnley to win the game by 1 goal. We may need to do that at times. We certainly could have been 2-0 up against Fulham in the first 10 minutes. We certainly should have scored against Arsenal. So I'm hoping, starting on Sunday, we continue to see us creating chances and then scoring those chances. Diabolical Billy says, Bruno, bloke yaps more than a chihuahua on espresso. Mouth never shuts. Arm flapping about like he's a conductor in an orchestra of whinge. Less captain, more toddler throwing a tantrum in Tesco's. Diabolical. He's back again. Diabolical Billy. He came out with another repertoire last night that was very good, and he's done it again. Thank you very much, Diabolical Billy. Hope you're doing well. Mojo says, losing 10 games is not a problem. We have to ensure significant wins to make it 5th. 10 losses and 10 draws are not helping us get to 5th. Absolutely spot on. There are 38 games in the Premier League, right? How many points did Newcastle get last year? Premier League 24-25. Newcastle got 66 points last year, right? They lost 12 games. They won 20 and they drew 6. So, look, if you drew 2 games, lost 12 and won 24, then you've got 24 times 3 is 72 points. If you, I mean, I'd almost say you could lose 14 games, draw 2, and win 22, and you'd have 68 points. So, you know, Mojo's right. You can lose more than 12 games. You just better not draw many. So, you know, I'd say 66 points will get you top 5. Yeah. Yeah. Savage says 70 points would be a massive improvement. I mean, Savage, you know, I remember at the start of last season saying I don't want it to be about position. I want it to be about points. I'd love to get back to doing that. I mean, I can't believe how shite. I mean, we smashed our worst ever Premier League points total last year. I just can't. I don't even remember what it is because it's just so bloody embarrassing. 42 points. I can't believe it. I can't believe it, mate. I can't bloody believe it. Our worst points total in Premier League history was 59. 42. 42. We broke our worst ever Premier League's points total by 17 points. 17 points, Gary. I mean, that is. It's not just shit. It's turbo shit. It's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. 42 points. Yeah. But look, what I would like to see this season is let's get 65 points and see where it puts us. Let's get 65 points. Because 60 points is still crap. I'm sorry. I don't think 60 points is good. If our worst ever points total was 59 up until last year, I can't sit here and go, let's get 60. I know it's an improvement, but it's still shit. So I'm saying 65 this year. Let's get 65 points. And it might get us 5th. If we get more, it will. But I'm not going to sit here and say, let's get 60, because that would be one of our worst ever Premier League points totals. And I don't think that's acceptable. So I would say 65. DM says, why should we settle for 65? I'm just saying, like, as a marker, let's go for 65. Brazen's loving the chat tonight. It's been very, very good. You've made the show a lot easier for me. We must see 3rd season Eric Ten Hag era, says Hyans. Jack says, what if the players don't want to follow a captain that's just going to walk away in a year? We know the mentality of this lot. No professionalism. Thank you very much, Jack. Mojo's a legend. Ugarte needs Martinez. That was a great point. Thank you very much. All eyes on these players. No bomb squad to blame, says Alex. You know what, Alex, though? I have said this a few times, so I'm not claiming it as a worldy new opinion. But the bomb squad had nothing to do with last season anyway. Bar Garnacho, none of them were actually here. So as much as we needed to get rid of the bomb squad, none of them were actually here last year. You know? Right, I'm going to give some memberships here. Let's get them in. They should be dropping in now. I promised you I'd do them earlier, and you've been so good tonight. It's been a difficult day. So thank you very much for all your support. John Morris says, keep the collar, Mark. Never let that go. Yeah, it's... Well, I'll talk to you about it afterwards, mate, because we'll do it in the after show. But there we go. On Ugarte, will he be here next season? 48% yes, 52% no. So quite a split there. But I'm happy with that. I am happy with that. I think it's I think it's what do you call it? It's a fair reflection of, you know, people are giving him a chance, even though he's not playing well at the moment. Look, Ugarte should be starting in our midfield every week. Look, on the midfield, I've said it before. Maybe it's desire, maybe it's personal preference, but I still think the best balanced midfield of Man United is Ugarte and Mainoo. You've got to play it, though. I've seen it so many times. People are not going to prove themselves in one game. I think you've got to go with it and stick with it for 4 or 5 games and see where you are then. What I would do if I was manager, I would say to Ugarte and Mainoo, you're my midfield too. You're my midfield too. So don't be panicking. I believe in you for this, and this. And I'm going to stick with you for the next 5 games. And this is your big opportunity. I believe in you. I think you're my best midfield too. Go out and prove it. And don't feel that you're under pressure, because I am going to stick with you for 5 games to see how it goes. Obviously, if you play utter rubbish, I might change it, but I want to stick with you. What we do is we give people 1 game and then it's like, that was shit. I still think that they are the best balanced midfield 2 we have, because Mainoo's more attacking but still a midfielder, and Ugarte has got more legs than Casemiro. But at the moment, Bruno and Casemiro are a starting midfield too. So, you know, why is that? Dean says, do you think Anderson would work in an Amorim system and cost less than Baleba? 100%, Dean. Of course he would. He would work in this system. So would Wharton. But Amorim prefers Baleba. I need to watch Brighton, actually. I need to watch Brighton. I haven't really seen much of Brighton this season, but, you know, I understand why he wants him, but... Fugo says, off topic, but I'm Ecuadorian and I want to know your opinion on Valencia and if we would be a star in this Amorim side. Also love the content. I think Antonio Valencia would be an absolute superstar in this system because he was a winger who became a wing back, so he'd be bloody brilliant. And I think Valencia is one of those players that's probably slightly underrated because he was actually a very good signing for the money. I thought he was very, very good as a winger. I wasn't too overawed with him as a right back, I'll be honest. But he did get a bad injury. I mean, his leg was literally hanging off, wasn't it? But he came back quite quick from it. But I thought he was a brilliant winger. Really good winger. Very, very good over 2 yards. Just knock it past somebody, get the space and put the cross in. The injury impacted him a little bit. And I think we became a little bit obsessed with him being a right back rather than a winger. But Valencia at his best in this team as a wing back would be perfect. Absolutely perfect. Strong as well. Really strong. He's one of those players that really does get forgotten because he sort of transcended the Sir Alex Ferguson era at the end and then into the Moyes era, etc. But he was a good player. He was a good player. He just gets forgotten a little bit, but he was good. Good player. Good comment. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you for everybody this afternoon, this evening, and this morning, wherever you are. Really appreciate it. And I will be back. Well, tomorrow. Well, look, for me, football's back tomorrow, properly. Thank you for all your support over the international break. I love all the 8 o'clock shows we do. We get to dive into things in a lot bigger depth. But it's all back tomorrow. We've got the preview tomorrow night. Chart show's out at 2 a.m. this morning. Obviously got press conference on Friday, and then it's matches at the weekend. So yeah, very, very excited about it. Champers, says Marv. Take care, everyone. Stay safe, and I'll speak to you soon. Very, very quick after show then today, because obviously I have got a few things to do. I'm really tired as well, and I think I've put my back out in a really weird place. But somebody was saying, like, obviously we had the dog put down today, which was very sad. I was saying this to the kids, really. The dog was old. It wasn't very well. It had the injection in the arms of my wife, and what a way to go, really. Long life, loved, and in the arms of someone who loves you. I think from the dog's point of view, it was time, but it's always as who gets left behind then it hurts because you miss them. That's what I always find about death. It's like the people who get left behind are the ones that, you know, feel the pain, and thankfully they don't feel the pain anymore. But yeah, we have got the collar, and they offered us something at the vet where we could take a strand of some of the hair of the dog, and that's when you got a hangover. And but they do do a paw print. They do a paw print, which we got as well, which I think is nice, because I remember my first dog. I remember my first dog that got put down. And I think some people with pets say it's not worth the pain when they go. I think it's better to love and loss than not to love at all. And also, I think for kids, it's really important. You know, this is my first introduction to grief was when my dog died when I was about Seb's age, and it's really hard, but it introduces you to the realities of life. The interesting thing is as well, when your dog's been put down, some people take the dog home and bury it in the garden. Some people have the ashes. Some people don't bother with anything. I think that's a personal choice, really. I have friends whose families often gets mentioned at Christmas, actually, because at Christmas I always go to the graves of, you know, people that I, you know, family, and it's important to me because although before I was born, my brother actually died of cot death, so I never knew my brother. So I'm actually not the oldest in our family. And I've always felt like I was a second child. I've always felt like I'm quite immature and stuff. So to me, even though I never met my brother, he is a massive part in my life. And so I always go to the grave at Christmas and put flowers down and stuff like that. But I have friends who don't do that. Like when somebody's dead, they have a grave, but they don't go to the grave or anything like that. They don't feel that that is part of it. It's like that's where their grave is, but they don't go there because they remember them without having to go there, which I think is an interesting way. I think it's interesting how people, you know, process and do things. So yeah, we didn't bring the dog back, and we haven't asked for the ashes, but they did do the footprint, which is nice. Each their own. Is what I would say. But no, thanks everyone. Like it's been a hard day, because I think as you get older as well, and I'm sure many of you will appreciate this, you don't just deal with how you feel. You have to deal with everyone else. And I'm not really a crier, but when I do, I can't control it. Like at my granddad's funeral, I was holding it all in because there was a lot of people around me that weren't. And I remember, I thought I was going to cry then because it can be spontaneous. They were talking about his grandkids, and they mentioned my daughter's name, who used to love his Homer slippers because he had slippers with Homer Simpson on it. Oh, God. Everyone was sort of laughing about it, and they thought I was laughing. I was belling like the Big Ben. I was absolutely crying my eyes out. And I had to do a speech 30 seconds later. So, yeah, it's difficult, like, because obviously I'm around my kids today, and they were really upset, and that upsets me and stuff. So it's been a challenge. But people who don't have pets don't appreciate it. They break your heart. They do. They really do. But you wouldn't change it. It's life, you know. I was saying to Seb today, I said, look, you know what? I remember life before we had that dog. She wasn't alive. She wasn't here. She didn't exist. Effectively, she was dead before she was born. We all are. And she's had a life, and now it's gone, and that's it. It's a gift. But it's difficult because you want to maintain that, you know, innocence of youth that, you know, we all know. Life's not like that, is it? But yeah, it's it is what it is. I mean, talking about crying, I've just remembered there's footage of me crying. I mean, we used to have Kipster. Remember him? Some of you won't. Young lad, was part of the community, had a heart condition, died on the operating table, and we found out on a morning show. And it really, I cried on stream. I was just like absolutely devastated, and I'd never met him, just only messages and stuff like that. So yeah, a bit of a depressing after show. But look, this is why I just think life's for living, and you should always try and focus on the good people and try and laugh when you can, because there's plenty of times when you're going to be crying, and that's why I look forward to these shows every night, because it's escapism for an hour with people from all around the world talking about something we're really passionate about. And God, there's people out there and go, why do people watch that shit? Why does people spend an hour every night watching that shit, talking about football? Because why do people get up in the morning and go to work? Why do we all do it if we're all going to die? What's the point? And we all do it because we want to earn money, or we want to make a difference in this blink of an eye life that we have, that's very insignificant in the wider space of Earth's history, and God knows what the galaxy is. Don't even get me started on that. So there is no purpose really to what we do, other than there is a massive purpose to what we do, because we're just here to enjoy ourselves and make the most of what we've got, and probably don't deep it any more than that. That's why I can't stand people who take everything too seriously. That's why I can't stand people who don't have a sense of humour, because I think it's hugely important. Always. I mean, to be honest with you, I did make the kids laugh earlier because they were all really upset at dinner, and we've got another 2 dogs, and one of them's quite young, and I put my knife and fork down and went, what's worrying me? Who's going to tell Lila? And they all did laugh. And I thought, you know what? I've been at loads of funerals and made people laugh. I think it's really is so important that even in, those moments of absolute despair and heartache, you can still smile. You can still smile in the face of death. I hope I do. Although I wouldn't smile in the face of a great white shark coming towards me on a surfboard. I wouldn't tell a joke and say the joke's on you. I'd be shitting myself, really, to be honest with you. Martin says, I know INEOS has made mistakes, but with Amorim's influence, we are doing football club things, but more is needed. We're back on the football there. Thank you very much, Martin. Thank you, Mark, for great advice. We love you, says Hector. And sorry for your loss, Mark. Hopefully a good result this weekend to strike a little positivity for you and the family. Mate, it ain't that deep. It's just, everybody goes through it. And we're not unique. And, there'll be people going through a lot worse, certainly. So, but thank you for the show tonight. It's been a great help. And we obviously are back for football tomorrow. Don't forget the chart show, though. It's dropping at 2 a.m. UK time. It won't normally be dropping at that time, but we just ran out a bit of time today, and there's a load of stuff planned tomorrow. So it's a cult classic anyway. If you don't want to get involved with the chart show, that's absolutely fine. But it actually is driven by you now. I used to do the top 10. It's now driven by you. So check it out, 2 a.m. There'll be a few stripes. When's the preview, says Faisal? It's going to be live tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. The first few previews were not live because it was the transfer window. Now the transfer window's shut, I want to go back to doing live previews because I like the interactivity of the chat, predicted 11s, etc. So that'll be 8 o'clock tomorrow night. 2 a.m. in the morning UK time, so literally 5 hours. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. Thanks very much for your support tonight, as always, and I'll speak to you on the next one.